Bharmar, the land of the Gaddis. Bharmar is also known as the Gadderan. The steep, rocky terrain of Gadderan is crisscrossed by the Ravi River and its tributaries. The area is blessed with 3 ecological zones: subtropical grazing lands of the lower hills, subtemperate to temperate pastures of the middle hills, and lush alpine pastures of the higher hills. These make it the perfect habitat for the transhuman agro-pastoral Gaddi community. The Gaddis and Lord Shiva share a long mythical past. Legend has it that Shiva tested the loyalties of various communities towards herding of livestock. Only the Gaddis proved themselves worthy. Convinced, Shiva gave them his own garb of chola, topa and dora to fend off the extreme cold. And gave them flocks of sheep and goat to herd for a living. The sleepy village of Daswa, nestled in Punjab, is the winter home of the Gaddis. In winters, the extreme cold and scarcity of fodder make it necessary for the herds to migrate to the Trakar pastures or village fields in Daswa. It is a symbiotic relationship between the migrating Gaddis and the farmers of Daswa. While one gets a comfortable, safe environment to tide through harsh winters, the other looks forward to their lands being made fertile by good quality manure that the herds leave behind as droppings. Each day, under the watchful eye of the Gaddi dog, the newborn kids are left behind in straw enclosures, while the adults are taken to neighboring pastures to graze. Late in the afternoon, when the mothers return, the young kids happily run to them. The Gaddis rear the Gaddi and Tampur Bushehri breeds of sheep, which are considered to be the best producers of quality wool in the country. As the winter stay comes to an end, the Gaddis undertake the laborious task of shearing the wool for sale. Sometimes it is done by machine, sometimes manually using traditional shears. Once the buyers are satisfied, the deal is usually sealed between 50 to 60 rupees per kilogram. They value their sheep and goats so much that their lives revolve around the care of livestock, to the extent of adopting their lifestyle. They move when the livestock moves. They rest when the livestock rests. It is the month of March. The snow begins to melt fast and the mountains beckon. The huts now bear a desolate look. as Naseeb Singh Chanalu gathers all his belongings, hoists them onto his shoulders and sets out towards the upper reaches with the herds of sheep and goat. The herd's next stop is Kangra. They will have to travel through several forest tracks and the busy Dharamshala road. The herds constantly pause to graze. The herders sit by, waiting patiently. After a 10-day walk, as the herds arrive in Kangra, almost as a rule, the men leave their backpacks in the fields with their livestock before they head home. It's true, and they must leave their families behind. But asking a Gaddi to choose between his livestock and his own children is like asking any other parent to choose between two of his progenies.
मम्मी ने बहुत मारा मुझे बचपन से, बहुत ज़्यादा। पापा के आने से मतलब हौसला सा बन जाता था, एक मतलब मजबूती, मतलब आ गए पापा। ऐसा सोच के काफ़ी बुरा लगता है कि हमारा ट्रेडिशन ख़त्म हो रहा है धीरे धीरे। युवा पीढ़ी इस काम को नहीं करना चाहती है, क्योंकि अभी सभी वेल एजुकेटेड हो रहे हैं, सभी पढ़ाई लिखाई करके थोड़ा मतलब नौकरी वोकरी कर रहे हैं, तो ऐश आराम की ज़िंदगी चाहते हैं सभी।
जैसे हमारे दादा परदादा की आपने बात की है, वो टाइम कुछ और था सर, अनपढ़ता था, वो बेकार थे, वो भेड़ बकरी के साथ चल पड़ते थे। अब ऐसा टाइम आ गया, पढ़ लिख गया हर कोई लोग, तो वो मतलब अपना कोई छोटा मोटा धंधा कर रहे हैं, तो इस काम में कोई देखभाल नहीं कर रहा है।
जिस टाइम हमारे बुजुर्ग इस धंधे को करते थे, उस टाइम घास था, अच्छा घास था, जड़ी बूटियाँ भी नहीं थी उस टाइम। वो आजकल लो कंडे वाली बूटा चल पड़ा, उससे गद्दी तंग हो रहे हैं। 100 बाल वो बूटी खींच रही है, तो इनका बड़ा नहीं तो इनका 50 ग्राम खून क्या वो निकलेगा ही निकलेगा, तो इसने कहाँ सेहत बनाई।
Getting rid of this lantana grass, which is destroying our forest. So this is a big problem for the Gaddis. If there is no grass, there is no sheep.
गवर्नमेंट सोचती है चलो चलता है, चलने दो ऐसे। उसने तो जंगल में कोई मजूर ला के वहाँ तो उसको उखाड़ना तो लगाना नहीं, और बकरी का खाने वाला घास तो लगाना नहीं। उसने 5 साल बंद कर देना और रकबा, 5 साल हमारी छुट्टी।
Naseeb knows when it is time to move. He gathers his flocks and they set out in the direction of Bohar Jot.
हम बचपन में स्कूल में पढ़ते थे तो डैडी के साथ जाते थे। डैडी मेरे जो थे साफा लगाते थे और चोड़ू डोरा और चमड़े के जूते। आजकल जो चमड़े के जूते वो मिलते नहीं हैं, और एक ही पट्टू से, इसको बोलते हैं हम गरुड़ से गुजारा कर लेते थे वो। आजकल जो है जमाना ऐसा आ गया है, ना गद्दी के पास चोड़ा है ना डोरा है, सीधा कोट और टोपी लगाते हैं।
The economy of the Gaddis runs by selling a few head of livestock from time to time. This brings in the much-needed cash. Soon after the herds leave Kangra, they are approached by Kashmiri traders who buy some sheep. Earlier, the Gaddis used to barter their livestock in exchange for rations while passing through the various villages. But now, their business has grown considerably, and buyers approach them from as far off as the Kashmir Valley. The long negotiation ends with the deal being sealed at about 5,000 to 6,000 rupees per sheep. The price depends on the age and quality of livestock. Sometimes the traders may haggle over the prices, and the Gaddis settle for a few hundred rupees more. This may not seem fair, but the Gaddis are content, knowing that they will be back next year to buy more. The herd continues on its journey, traversing roads, forests, and crossing rivers. On the way, they make a brief halt at Banala. The sale of livestock continues. For easy recognition, many buyers mark their purchase by sharing a small patch of wool. Experience over generations has taught them that by maintaining a certain number of livestock, their business will run smoothly. So each year, the Gaddis only sell as many sheep or goats as the number of healthy live births that year. A new addition to the herd now means Naseeb has one more responsibility. Since the tough onward journey would threaten its survival, Naseeb chooses to sell it off. Transhuman pastoralism demands great care for the environment. No infection must be carried to the pristine Himalayas, for the wild sheep, goat, and other animals could fall sick and die. So, when they are about to enter the higher reaches, as a precautionary measure, the State Department of Animal Husbandry gives the herds a disinfecting bath. The herds and the environment are now safe. Different Gaddis follow different routes, which are the family's cultural legacy. This system ensures that no one area bears the burden of providing for all the herds that set out each year. The next morning, the herd witnesses a changing landscape. The magnificent yet treacherous Dhauladhar range presents itself in the distance. The herd is headed there, passing through Kharana, Ludhri and Grani. Gaddis share a beautiful relationship with their livestock, and it is a common sight to see them carrying their young or sick sheep and goats.
अच्छा जंगल तो हमारा दिल बहुत खुश होता है। हमारा माल आज आ है, हमने डट के घी के साथ खा लिया ना, तो हमारा मन बोलेगा आज यार हमने घी के साथ खाया। ज़्यादा हम खाएंगे नमक के साथ तो हमारा दादा बात ये होना यार आज खाना ही नहीं मिला, मैं नमक के साथ मिला। इन बकरियों के आज 20 किलो वजन है, वो तब 40 किलो वजन होता था। आज 20 किलो में हमारी एवरेज नहीं निकल रही है।
The dense forests of Himachal Pradesh are full of wild animals. The livestock being herded by a handful of men and one shaggy sheepdog are easy prey.
जैसे काला बीर है, ब्राउन बीर है, जितना पड़ेगा 10 पीस खा जाएगा वो। हम बोलेंगे कि हमारा एक तरह नुकसान हो गया तो गवर्नमेंट बोलेगी नहीं, फोटो लो। 2 दिन लगा के आएंगे, कहाँ रिपोर्ट देंगे कि पटवारी के पास, प्रधान के पास। जब वापस जाएगा तो गीत वगैरह वो खा के खाली खलास, बोलते मौके पर कुछ नहीं पाया।
Each day is a struggle. The terrain is difficult, the backpacks heavy. Even the rations need to be carried. Untouched by the cares of the world, the Gaddis are wanderers in the true sense of the word. In the Indian Himalayas, pastoralism is largely transhuman, which means there is movement of herds in a vertical space to exploit the seasonal availability of pastures at different altitudes. Struggling for days through steep slopes, rocky gorges and scrubby forests, the herd finally arrives at Bohar Jod, a fixed old moraine of a glacier in the Dhauladhar range. Suddenly, the landscape changes and the tall trees give way to rolling alpine meadows, which is what brings the Gaddis here. On the way to Bharmar, the herd leaves Bohar behind, as man and livestock scale through loose rocky mountains at Rock.
भेड़ तो बेचना पड़ेगी। अगर कोई जैसे अब हमारे को पहले नौकर मिल जाते थे, भेड़ बकरी चलाने वाले मिल जाते थे, वो प्रोजेक्ट में काम लग रहे हैं, नरेगा लग रही है, तो बोलते हैं बाहर जाके बारिश में कौन भीगेंगे, इतनी जो जोत है पास से कौन क्रॉस करेगा। रावी के किनारे किनारे मक्की डाली है, जो मलबा जो डिस्पोजल मलबा डाला हुआ है, तो हमारी भेड़ बकरी जो जाती है उनके लिए पानी भी नहीं रहा, जाने के लिए जगह नहीं रही नीचे। हर जगह हमें दिखता रही है भेड़ बकरी वालों को।
स्टोई में हमारे 50 घर थे, आजकल 200 घर है। तो पहले तो हमारा वो अड्डे से लेकर ऊपर तक सचुई से हाफ तक गांव ही नहीं था। आज तक और सचुई और अड्डा बराबर हो गया, मकोता और सचुई बराबर हो गया। पहले गैप होता था कितना। तो दिन पर दिन आबादी बढ़ रही है, हम भी खत्म, वो जंगल भी खत्म।
It is sometimes sunny, sometimes misty, and sometimes rainy in this beautiful region. Under the open sky, little can be done except to bide the storm on the leeward side of a mountain, or at times just sit it out.
साहब बकरी कहाँ है? अभी 4-5% लोगों के पास बकरी है, कहाँ चराएंगे? नीचे सर्दी में जाते हैं, वहाँ चुराने को जगह नहीं है। परिवर्तन ऐसे आ गया, आबादी बढ़ गई, उसको चारागाह नहीं रहा, उसको कहाँ घास देंगे? घास खत्म हो गया। कभी ज़माने में था, कभी 100 साल 50-60 साल पहले जो जंगल खुले थे तो वो चुराते थे, लोग अपना गुजारा कर लेते थे। अब क्या, आज कुछ नहीं। बकरी तो एक खाली नाम का नाम रहेगा।
Braving bad weather, the herd arrives at Bharmar, where there are several Gaddi villages like Malkota. For the wandering Gaddis, these mid-altitude villages are home. While the men are away for most part of the year, the women stay behind caring for the home. They spend most of their time spinning yarn from wool and weaving it on handlooms. Amongst the many items woven by hand is the traditional black and white checkered garadu. This big blanket-like shawl is in use even today because it provides great protection against wind, rain and snow. Gaddi houses are mostly 2 to 3 stories high. They are constructed using locally available materials. The house stands as if on a vertical pole, and life within it follows an upward-downward movement, much in keeping with the Gaddi way of life. The ground floor is used to house the cattle, while the family occupies the first and second floors. Naseeb has homes both in Kangra and Malkota. His family has travelled up from Kangra to meet him here before he moves on.
और लगता नहीं अपना आदमी बाहर रहता तो फिक्र भी होता है 24 घंटे बाहर ही एक महीना कभी बरसात में आते हैं ये तो बाहर ही कभी 8 दिन आते हैं कभी हफ्ता आते हैं कभी 7 दिन आते हैं कभी 2 दिन ही आते हैं दिन तो बाहर ही जिंदगी निकल गई है तो अभी तो फोन आ गए ना सबके पास फोन कर लेते हैं कहीं सिग्नल नहीं होता तो फिर फिक्र रहता है कहाँ गए होगे फोन नहीं लग रहा तो पहले तो ऐसे सोचते थे ना कहाँ हो गए अब कैसे हो गए खरे हैं कि बुरे हैं बीमार पड़े हैं कि
After enjoying the comforts of home for a few days, Naseeb and his herd need to move again. They must travel further upwards through pine forests to reach Kukti, which is another mid-altitude village. At Kukti, the herds settle in areas around the Karthik temple. With the rolling green pastures in plenty, they will happily graze here for a month. The Gaddis can never be sure about the duration of their hold. It is the sheep and goat who dictate the time. Are ready to move, they travel through the Kukti Pass to reach Lahaul Spiti, where colorful prayer flags welcome them to the land of Buddha. Past the monastery, some of the herds continue trekking upwards despite the harsh environment, while others stay back at Lahaul Spiti.
हमारा जो मतलब परमटी वो नूरपुर का है डिस्ट्रिक्ट कांगड़ा का वहाँ करते हैं हम 3 महीने उसके बाद वापस आ जाते हैं बाया सिमता बाया राख और ब्रह्मौर में हमारा गांव में मतलब घर बार है अपने परिवार बार हमारा वहीं रहता है उसके बाद हम आ जाते हैं कुक्ति काटते 1 महीने काटने के बावजूद उसके बाद इधर आ जाते हैं हम लाहौल स्पीति
Going through the beautiful Jispa village, they travel past the tree line to reach Sarchu. The quest for green pastures ends here at an altitude of 13,850 feet. The herds will stay here at Sarchu for 1 month. Up amidst the snow-clad mountains are the alpine meadows with sweet, fragrant grass in plenty. This will make any sheep and goat healthy and strong. They will produce more milk and the woolly coat will grow soft and thick. Life at this altitude is extremely tough. The herders must live in temporary camps, which they build by digging pits and piling low walls of rock around the periphery. When the icy winds blow, the rock walls shield them from the winds. With the first hint of the approaching winter, in mid to late August, the herds begin to descend. They must stop at Bharmor for the Mani Mahesh Yatra. Naseeb is visiting from Malkota with his son. For him, it is a moment of thanksgiving to Lord Shiva on the completion of another successful migration. The Shiv Chelas, or followers of Shiva, sing and dance feverishly until some of them enter a trance-like state where they are said to be possessed by the Holy Spirit. This 10-day-long festival happens between Janmashtami and Radha-ashtami. Thereafter, the Shiv Chelas embark barefoot on their long trek through a rocky, misty terrain. Their destination is the Mani Mahesh Lake. The Gaddis believe that Lord Shiva resides at Mani Mahesh Kailash for 6 months and then migrates to Piyalpuri, the Netherlands, during the winter months. In doing so, he takes away with him all the living creatures, and so the Gaddis too migrate. Back at Chaurasi, as Gaddis, dressed in their traditional finery, dance to the divine music of drums and cymbals.
अच्छी है गद्दी की जिंदगी। गद्दी इस अभी तो बहुत बहुत बड़े हो गए हैं, अभी थोड़ी है कोई पुराने गद्दी। जो बेडे चुगाता है वो तो मुलाजिम से बड़ा है।
युवा पीढ़ी इस काम को नहीं करना चाहती है क्योंकि अभी सभी वेल एजुकेटेड हो रहे हैं, सभी पढ़ाई लिखाई करके थोड़ा मतलब नौकरी वोकरी कर रहे हैं, तो ऐश आराम की ज़िंदगी चाहते हैं सभी।
People are going into being doctors, they're going into being engineers, and there should be somebody who has to, take this profession also to the next level.
अब देखो लाहौल स्पीति में कितना माल था, अब सारा